a bit shy to rate yourself. Okay, good. So I'm going to stop this poll for now. And then I've got just one more second question for you, just to get a sentiment and a feel of, in preparation for the session ahead. What is the most difficult thing for you in parenting? For me, I will put teenage phase. Frankly, was the most difficult as I reflect back on my parenting experience. Some of you might say, by the way, it's a free flow, right? So you just type in whatever words that come to mind. Some of you will be battling with devices, the computer. Whew, yes, patience, true. And some of you have problem with, yes, spiritual aspect. Some of you probably the friends that your children keep. Okay, discipline come up very strong. We're doing a word cloud here, so patience is also came out very strong. I don't know if some of you already are starting to have your children's interested in the opposite sex, a bit too young if they are, or if they're in the teenage, then it's very common that happens. So it depends on which age your children are at. Okay, devices also come up very strong because we are all, modern age parents, social media. Okay, need some help to mute. Okay, good, thank you. And I think it's a very good representation of the sentiments of most of you. So it's to do with devices, very real problem, discipline and patience. So you're in for a treat, because I think most of what I prepared with Raymond will hopefully help you tackle some of these. Okay, good. So I will stop sharing this, then I'll start the session. Please feel free to take out your notes. I think we share a set of notes with you. As we go on with the content, you feel free to take notes if you like. We learn a new feature today that you can actually put my slides as a virtual background, and then myself, I can see myself now when I talk to you. Okay, so there's a new Zoom feature. It's already there. In case you didn't know, we can teach you how to use that for those of you who do teaching. So welcome to the parenting seminar, and it's an honor and privilege for myself and Raymond to be sharing with you this afternoon. So feel free in the course of our sharing that I can even make my size smaller, so that I don't block any view. In the course of sharing, if you like, you can use the chat window on your side on the right and type in any questions you have. We will take a break for about 10 minutes after I finish my first portion. And then Raymond will come on and teach you the second portion. That's how we will tag team. In the course of sharing, so-called teaching or imparting with you, we will share our life testimony, our journey with our children. So it's good that we bring pictures of I call it the Simply Awesome family. Someone came up with that term. We are the Sim family. Simply awesome. We want to give praise to God. Those of you who may know, 1 year ago, exactly 1 year ago, everyone you saw in this picture had COVID. So that really shook us up as a family. But throughout the whole process, Jesus was in the boat. And remember that song we sing in Sunday school, with Christ in the vessel, we can smile at the storm. That's exactly what the Simply Awesome family did. And praise be to God, today we are all living and, having a testimony to share. So over the course of sharing, you will see, let's talk about Richard. Richard is our eldest son. He's 24 today, already this year. Rebecca, 21. Ryan, the youngest on the right, is 20. And our mom-in-law is Emily. So that's the journey we've gone through already. They are in their, I would say, young adulthood. And so it's been quite interesting, right? Partnering Raymond to bring up these 3 children. Okay. Now, let me start by saying when Mother Teresa won the Nobel Prize, she was asked by a reporter, "What can we do to promote world peace?" And she answered, "Go home and love your family." How true, what a fabulous answer. The success of a nation is tied to the success of the families. And of course, the success of a family, the family that you represent, is tied to the success of your parenting. A lot of what we teach you today is going to be found in 1 Timothy 3:1-5. I'm not going to read that verse, but I'm going to leave it to you as homework. So if you like, it's in your notes as well. Read this scripture verse today before you go to sleep. That will be good to use as a reflection. And let me start also by then saying, when you look at the best model for parenting, who do you go to? It's very clear. You would want to go to God the Father. In fact, God declares himself very clearly to us. He is our Heavenly Father. He seeks for a relationship as a father to his beloved children. And when Jesus was on earth, when he taught us to pray, he didn't say, our Master, our Lord. He started, the first two words he used was, our Father in heaven. And so it's very clear that God does not want to relate to us like we are slave or servant, but as his children. He yearns for this relationship with us. And the best parenting model you can get, seriously, what Raymond and I learned all these years, is the word of God. And I encourage you, when you're discouraged, there are times you struggle with that device, that discipline, that patience, go to the Bible. You can never go wrong when you go back to the source for that, encouragement as you journey. But let me also then point out to the lesson we'll teach today. Very simple to remember. The 6 A's is in your notes as well, if you have a copy with you, on what positive parenting is all about. And we learned this from Josh McDowell, who's a very great teacher as well of family. And he has laid down these 6 very interesting principles. Also want to give credit to our mentor, Pastor Benny Ho. A lot of what we learn and share today is also shared by Pastor Benny. Okay, so let's jump in. The first point, acceptance. What exactly is acceptance? Acceptance is a very basic foundation for your child to feel that sense of security and esteem in your family, is to feel that you accept him or her. And how do we handle acceptance? We handle acceptance by communicating it with our children, not just when they're successful, actually all the more when they fail. And this is, you can find a very nice scripture verse, Lamentations chapter 3, verse 21-23, that says, I recall to my mind. Therefore, I have hope. Through the Lord's mercy, we're not consumed because of his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. You see how our loving God, despite us, sinning and going the wrong way, he just refreshed everything. His mercies and his compassion is new every morning, and he's forever great in his faithfulness. So that's really one lesson that it's hard to practice, to be serious, to be honest with you. And I'm going to also share with you how I handle that. So, but I just want to put in your heart that it's important you know that your children have inherent value. They are loved not so much by what they do. You should love them for who they are, who God made them to be. I want to share a lovely poem by Dorothy Law. And there's 2 parts to the poem, but I focus on the positive part. Now, the first part was a little bit of the negative side. So I'm going to read it out to you. If a child lives with encouragement, he learns confidence. If a child lives with praise, he learns to appreciate. If a child lives with fairness, he learns justice. If a child lives with security, he learns faith. If a child lives with approval, he learns to like himself. If a child lives with acceptance, he learns to love the world. How true. And so the environment that you create for your children in an acceptance and a very healthy, positive environment, your children will become what you have created the environment to be. And the paradox for all of us is, does it mean then, everything is very lovey-dovey, just accept them for who they are? It means that you got no expectation. It's not true. Again, another scripture verse for you. I read to you Philippians 2:12-13. Therefore, my beloved, as you've always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now Much more in my absence, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who works in both you to will and to do for his good pleasure. You will realize that God accepts us not just for who we are, but he expects us to grow in maturity and holiness. So the truth is, it's not just all lovey-dovey and just acceptance without any expectation. In fact, I challenge you to set high expectation. One of the trademark of me, of Ruth, those of you who knows me and some of you know me quite well, work together, or we, in church, or we grew up together, like my cousin is here as well. I have very high bars. I'm a tiger mom, by the way. I used to scare my children by the very high bar that I set, that I give them a lot of stress. Okay, so I'm going to leave this 2 sentences very powerful with you before I share my testimony. So the situation that I hope you get to is you have high expectation with high acceptance. Because you have high expectation without high acceptance, that's what I used to be when the children were younger. We will stress our children until we break them. I know some of you are like me, tiger mom or tiger dad, set very, very high bar. You give a lot of stress to your children, especially academics. And sometimes you're on the verge of breaking them, even breaking yourself. I've come across a lot of parents who are so stressed over their children's exams and studies that they almost go bonkers. Now, the reverse is true. If you have high acceptance, everything is lovey-dovey, everything is okay, very relaxed, no high expectation at all, no expectation even, you will excuse failure until it becomes a way of life for them. And that's very dangerous as well. So let me, in the next slide or so, share with you some parenting mistakes I make. I told you I was a tiger mom, right? So I put the report card there too, and that's my report card of my youngest son. So of the 3 children, the youngest one, Ryan, struggles the most academically. So when they were younger in primary school, I had this reward system which I use, and I don't encourage you to use the same way as I did. So I set the bar so high that I will reward their results, the report book results. I only pay for A. That's how ruthless I am. I only pay for A. So if you get an A in your report book, I will reward $50. And I think sometimes I even up the stake, every A, $100. I don't reward anything else. So I did this for all 3 children as they were growing up. And it was very easy for Richard because he's very academic to score A. You always get like $400 because in primary school you get 4 subjects, right? Then it was also not difficult for Rebecca, the second one, to follow and get $400. But the youngest one, as the studies get more difficult into the upper primary, you can see him fall off, as in it's not easy for him to score A. Then now to be kind of a bit gracious, I would say, but the teacher wrote a very nice comment in the report book about your character. Okay, mom will throw in $50 here. So I lowered the bar a little bit to accommodate that he's not so strong academically, but character-wise, I want to reward him. But it wasn't until in secondary school when things start to go wrong and he started failing by Sec 3. By Sec 4, we are even called into the principal's office because it's coming to the A levels. I did the whole thing crumble, and it was my sister. My sister is the god sister of my youngest son. She came to bridge the tension that was between mom and son, and she said, "This thing that you did, actually Ryan hated it all his years of growing up." So I realized that I had too high expectation, that I realized I did not learn how to accept my children as they are. And that every child had their own journey. The other very hard knock lesson I learned is, I grew up having a very good school track record, in a sense, because my mom sent me to Raffles Girls Primary. Then I studied hard, and to God's glory, I went on to Raffles Girls, Raffles Junior College. So I'm a true-blooded Rafflesian. And so you see my daughter there in her uniform. She of course followed mom to Raffles Girls Primary School. It's like the only heritage I want, and a desire for my children, the best academic. But lo and behold, when I was in primary 5, I went to see the teacher, parent me teacher. And then the teacher, I couldn't help but ask the teacher the question, right? So what do you think are Rebecca's chances to make it to RGS? And being a pure-blooded Revlesian, that's my desire. My children follow my heritage, right? And that primary 5 teacher, I still remember her till today. She said, Mrs. Sim, to be honest, her chances are not high. Those words really pierce me to the heart, to the core, because it's like, what? There's still 12 months left. Why so fast predict that a child cannot get to that academic excellence? So long story short, true enough, 12 months later, my daughter did not make it. She had a very high PSLE score, but she's 10 points away from making it to RGS. And I thought that was it, but I saw my daughter's facial expression fell when she got the results, because mom had such high expectation. I set the bar so high that when she couldn't accept it, she was worried she will not get my acceptance. It cannot meet my expectations. She could not get my acceptance. And I really repented, because God taught me that every child has their own journey. It does not make her any less just because she doesn't follow a Revlesian heritage. Another fast forward story is that by the time she finished by the way, she went to Crescent Girls. So if anybody there of you is in Crescent Girls, a very good school. She did secondary school Crescent Girls. She did so well in her O levels that she could choose to go to RJ, or she could choose to go to Hwa Chong. And you know what? I think I've created such a scar in her life. She says, no, I'm not going to go to Raffles. Since I'm not cut out to follow your Revlesian heritage, I'm going to go Hwa Chong. And so she went to Hwa Chong and went on to university after that. So I just want to finish my sharing with high expectations, just like me, a tiger balm. By the way, I repented from that. Must come with high acceptance. Remember, your children have their own journey. It's all planned by God. It's not what you will and what you try to make it to be. Accept them and love them unconditionally. Let me move on quickly to my second point, affirmation. It is a very important point as well. As much as possible, and I think it's not very common in our Asian or Chinese culture, for those of you, or Asian in general, we tend not to affirm our children too much.
Idea.
But it's important. It's important. And let me tell you of a story that I read. This guy called Benjamin West, he's a painter. He once talked about how he became an artist. When he was 8 years old, he was left at home with his 3-year-old sister named Cheryl. That was the day, Benjamin found some paint and brushes in the kitchen. He used the kitchen floor as a canvas and painted his sister on it. When his parents came back, they were shocked. But the wise mother, instead of blowing her top, said to him, "Why, that's Cheryl. That's really cool." And she gave him a kiss. And with that kiss, Benjamin West said, "That kiss made me a painter." And that's the positive part. That's the power of positive affirmation. One of the most basic but yet critical winning quality is to build your children's positive self-esteem. And in fact, Norman Vincent Peale put it that way: the first person one must learn to love is oneself. If you don't love yourself, and by that is meant respect and esteem for yourself, you will not be able to truly love anyone else. So my advice and encouragement for all of you is to learn to love yourself first, and then love your children, love those around you. And to esteem someone is to appreciate the value of that person. And of course, to have that self-esteem means that you appreciate yourself as a person. And the seeds of self-esteem needs to be planted and cultivated in the early years of their life. And of the 3 children I have, 2, Ryan, who's my youngest again, is very special. His love language is words of affirmation. And I realized that whenever I want to motivate him to do, to excel and to do the right things, I have to be a cheerleader, be excessive words of affirming him. And likewise, when I do the reverse, I say words that hurt him, and I thought it was to spike him to do better, actually has a negative effect on him. So be very sensitive. If your children's love language is words of affirmation, use it correctly. And you know, people like parents, ourselves, relatives, teachers, and friends are very powerful. When I look at my children, their growing up years, the teachers who impacted them positively to learn are the very affirming ones. And I can name them. I know them by name because they created such an impact in my children's life that I'm eternally grateful to them for having my children cross path with them. So take note of that, and you want to be a parent who is encouraging and affirming to your children. And so how do you cultivate self-esteem? And I'm going to suggest again from what I learned from Josh McDowell, 4 ways, 4 actions. That's a picture of Josh McDowell, Focus on the Family. First one is develop your God-given ability. There is a particular success pattern that you can establish and help your children form in their subconscious mind. Once this success pattern is formed, you can repeat it, and they can repeat that same success in other things they do. Let me give you an example. For example, when my children were young, I teach them and I impart to them how to plan their study schedule at least a month, if not sometimes, depending on the major exams, might be 1.5 months, 6 weeks before the actual exam. And so, you know, I told you I was a tiger mom, right? So I have templates of timetable, spreadsheet, you know, that goes by day. And when it comes to the actual exam, that's quite close to the exam, it goes by hour. So again, I don't know if I should share any of this to scare you, but that was those days when I was tiger mom, right? So I would teach them how to do proper time management and planning, and how to cover, you know, all the chapters they need to study, how to allocate time for assessment. I did that when they were young, and then it formed a success pattern. So much so that after a while, you know, in upper primary and secondary school, when you can't really do things like this with them anymore because they start to turn to the teenage phase, they're quite independent. Because the success pattern was formed when they were younger, if they, you know, believe in what you impart to them, and they like that success pattern, it works for them, they will very naturally do it. And so this is something that I have tried. The other thing that I've tried with my children growing up is, you know, you got to do all these interviews, right? You apply for DSA, and you direct school entry, or you know, through leadership means or whatever. So there will be opportunities that they will, you know, through their years be exposed to interviews. I didn't tell you that I've been working in the corporate world. In fact, this May I celebrate 30 years of being in the workforce. So I interview a lot of people. So then one of the things I impart to my children is how to handle interviews. So I would share with them how they go about researching to prepare themselves for interviews. I would help them list down the kind of the questions that the viewer might most likely ask. And now work with them how they should prepare the answers. And sometimes we even simulate like a rehearsal, you know, dry run kind of thing, like play I'm interviewer and then they're being interviewed. So these are all success patterns, by the way. You'll be surprised as you help impart, and a lot of you are very capable in your own means. As you share life's journey and lessons with them, you show them the success pattern, they pick it up from you. They develop and strengthen their own self-esteem. Okay. And second point I want to share how to cultivate your children's success, self-esteem, is to delight in your present position. A lot of it is about you accepting who you are by the grace of God, and then, you know, allow that uniqueness and appreciation of yourself to set in for yourself and for your children. And so in the modern society, just now I saw a lot of you give feedback. One of the challenge is device. And you know, in the device means a lot of exposure to social media. Very, very dangerous. In fact, we have seen, I'm sure all of you have read the effects of social media. It can actually, you know, cause your children to be very affected. a lot of bullying happen nowadays in the social media. A lot of comments and feedback and likes, and dislikes can be very adverse. And so it's a very tricky thing as you bring up your children in this modern age with the onslaught of device to be able to influence them in the right way. I thought, what's the better way to show you than to bring a video? My daughter and children in growing up, is quite amazing how they like to make some videos. And so this is my daughter, Rebecca. You will see her, and I'm going to stop sharing and allow my husband to prepare the video. Raymond, can you start to share the video? And she did it when she was 15. And the video is entitled Social Media Doesn't Matter. And I want you to listen to how a 15-year-old girl view the so-called danger and the impact of social media in her life.
Media doesn't matter. Yeah, I said it. Social media never really mattered. It took me a while to figure that out, but I'm glad I did. I'm 15, and I'm one of those typical teenager who has a smartphone, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and Facebook account. So why am I saying all this? Because it took me 1 year to realize why it never mattered, why social media was nothing more but a lie. So here's my story. Last year, I was addicted to social media. I was on Instagram almost 24 hours a day. My eyes could never leave the screen, and I could scroll the Instagram feed all day without stopping. Yes, it was that bad. When I ate, I was using it. Before I go to sleep, I was using it. When I was with my family, I was using it. I could not control myself. I let it control me instead. However, through the long hours on Instagram, I realized many things. Number one, you can't compare yourself with other people, especially on Instagram. You know, people always post really nice pictures of themselves, doing something fun, or just looking good in that particular outfit. Nothing wrong with that, but it made me feel like their life was so much better and that mine was so boring and uninteresting. I was so busy looking at other people's lives and being, well, you could say jealous, that I forgot to be thankful for my own and making an effort to make my life worthwhile. I realized that I couldn't possibly compare my life with someone else's. After all, we're all different. Another thing is that likes, followers, whatever, doesn't matter at all. Friends, the likes you have on a particular post is just a number. It will never define who you truly are. It took me a while to wake up from the idea that if I had many likes, people would think that I'm popular and I'm well liked, and wow, I will be amazing by then. What I didn't realize is that those likes were given by my friends because they wanted likes on their own post too. The thing is, you are already amazing the way you are. You don't need those likes to validate yourself. You don't need those followers to know that people actually like you. So instead of spending so much time trying to get the followers and likes from people behind the screen, instead of spending so much time trying to look good in a picture and editing it, try going out there, face to face, connecting with people, getting to know people beyond that mere image online. Go out there, put your screen down, look up, and embrace yourself. So this year, God woke me up and He told me to let Him take control of my life. And I agreed. So I asked, what do you want me to do now? And He said, delete your Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and YouTube. I was shocked. I was like, what? No. But I still did it anyway. And for the first few months, I was really struggling. I felt so empty because I had so much time to do nothing. All those times my phone was practically gone. I felt really weird, but by the third month, I started to find things to do, like finding out what kind of person I am, going out with my friends and having deep conversations with them. I started to slowly figure out myself and try my best to spend each day wisely. 1 year later, I got out of it. And now, social media doesn't have a hold on me. And I'm glad I got out of it before I fell deeper. Friends, social media doesn't matter. Your life does. So make the best out of your life.
Okay, I hope you like that video. Let me share my screen again. She turned 21 this year. So it's amazing. At 15, she, God touched her life, and she's able to manage self-control. And it's not the only time she deleted her Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. After that, as she journeys, as she grows up, there were times when she felt the conviction of God to ask her to just delete them for the time being and focus on more important things. There were many times it was exams, important exams, and she did that. And so it's amazing what the Lord can do with your children as they practice self-acceptance. They do not need to be accepted, by the social media, what they see and what people give them. Let me move on to my next point, next 2 points. To help your children build self-esteem is to be determined to speak positively about yourself. And the concept is value paid, value accepted. You know how often somebody tell you, oh, Jane, you sing very well. And then instead of accepting the compliments very graciously, say, no, I crook, And then, or you tell John, great work. And John will say, no, yeah, I know you're trying to be sarcastic only. So too many times we turn away compliments and do not know how to accept it, very graciously. Learn to say, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the encouragement. And some of us are very modest. We give it away too quickly. Oh no, it's not me. It's my team. It's my brother who helped me and all that. So you cultivate a sense of your self-esteem and your self-worth by accepting the compliment, very willingly and openly about it. Accept and breathe in and celebrate your success for a while. The next point on this self-esteem, and I will close this point with this 4th point, is that you discover your God-given value as a human being. You have inherent that value. In the eyes of God, our Creator, none of us are zero. Remember, we have all these inherent value. And I just want to say that continue to encourage your children to cultivate self-esteem with them with these 4 actions that I've just suggested here. As individuals, we're not born with equal physical or mental abilities. We all have our own journeys, but we are born with equal rights to feel the excitement and joy of believing that we deserve the very best in life. Okay, let me move to my 3rd point now. Affection. Your children need your tender word and caring actions. And, we talk a lot.
Allowed to return? Yes.
We may need to mute somebody. Okay. We talk about not just expressing the affection through words, but also, through our physical means, and that's showing affection. The best thing you can do as husband and wives, for your children is the security of a solid marriage. And you see pictures of me and Raymond here. We have a very interesting way to express ourselves too, like taking pictures like this. During one of the work trips, he joined me, and we were in Paris, and we would take pictures like this. We are open about expressing our love for each other, and by doing that we show our children the example of a solid marriage, and it's very encouraging for them to see that their parents are very much in love with each other, and as a result you create a very positive and very healthy environment. for your children. And in fact, you know, this Ashley Montagu, and this is where we learn from this scholar who wrote a book about touch. Touch is a very interesting thing. Touch, in fact, is the most powerful sense organ in your body, in case you didn't know that. Without the sense of smell or taste, we can still survive. But without touch, we can't, according to this Ashley scholar. Proper stimulation of the skin is essential for organic and behavioral development. And there are a few very interesting facts here, and scientists have discovered this very few interesting facts that I put here about touch. First thing is the person initiating the touch is the one in greater authority. It's like a coach to a player, you know, like a pastor to a member, like a leader to a follower. So as parents, you need to be the one initiating touch towards your children. You're the one in greater authority, so you should. And as my children were growing up, you know, you can see pictures of us here. It's a lot about hugging, touching, and they need that. The younger they are, actually, the more you find that when they reach teenage, this doesn't happen as much anymore. Then there'll be a kind of period of time as young adults do, you know, when they start to be very sensitive to boy-girl relationship, you might lose that physical closeness for a while. But I noticed that it comes back again. My children are very good, you know, with physical touch with their grandma, and starting to probably come a little bit more with me and Raymond as well. So don't be discouraged if you kind of like, oh, you want to practice touch with a 12 or 13 or 14-year-old, or maybe even 16-year-old, you don't get that response. They go through periods. Huh? So the other fact about touch is girls are more touchy than guys. You know, that's why two girls sharing a bed is a very cool idea, right? And holding hands. But two guys sharing a bed and holding hands, oh, it's very uncool. So girls touch more than guys. So that's one fact for you to know as well. So your, you know, whether you have a son or a daughter, there's a difference. Touch is very choosy, very, very choosy. If I like you, you touch me, I like you more. So, but if I dislike you and you touch me, I dislike you more. you get the concept. So when you try to hug your kids when they're upset with you, you are just going to make it worse. So be careful. Touch is a very choosy thing, and so how you use affection, show affection, you know, show it correctly. So I'll tell you a very interesting story I heard from this. I read from this Dr. Henry Chaplin. He discovered that babies may be kept in neat, clean wards, but if they are not helped, the death rate is very high. So, but when women were brought in to carry these babies, the death rate dropped dramatically. So a very interesting study they did, and it matters a lot to these newborn babies that they will touch. Okay, when our children see and feel our affection as husband and wife, it gives them a sense of being loved. And by us also expressing our affection for them, it will help establish their confidence. It will help establish, you know, healthy relationship between you and them. So remember that you are lovable by showing affection emotionally, verbally, and physically. Okay. So with that, I come to kind of a good logical break for my session. I'm just going to see if, and some questions for you to ponder is I list down 3 of them, you know, just for you to tease you a little. We're going to go into a break very soon, but let me just see if in terms of the chat, is there any question that that jumps out? And
yes, there is.
Yes.
Yes, there is 2 questions.
Yep.
The first one is from Mary Chu.
Mm-hmm.
It says her daughter is also 15 and very into social media. How could I help her overcome from device?
Okay. Mary, is it her name?
Mary Chu.
Okay, Mary, it's a very tough question. Mary Chu. It's not easy to get them out of it. because it's something that their peers do. It's a fashion now. And so I'm never really very successful to get them off it. But when they were young, I had some ground rules, and later when Raymond teach, you will learn about some of these different stages. We give you advice to manage how you should handle your children when they are younger. In the primary school, younger into primary school stage, I set quite a lot of ground rules. I told you it's quite a tiger mom, right? So I have this piece of paper which I don't know. I think I forgot to take a picture of it, but there were some ground rules on device I set. Okay, and one of them is during meal time, no devices. So when we sit down together as a family, we lead by example, right? By not having the device, and so all of them are not allowed to have that device, so that we can eat and talk to each other. So there's no device time. My children were also addicted to games at one time, so especially the boys. So I control the games that they play, the duration. I think a lot of you do that, 1 week, how many times, how many hours, and the kind of games they play. So we're quite strict about not too much fighting kind of games. So we buy games and very selective. Of course, I'll tell you, as they go into secondary school, right, a lot of the rules you set not quite valid anymore. Teenagers, very tough age. I will share later how to handle that. And then so the rule starts to change a bit, okay? And you find yourself cannot be as controlling. In fact, you turn the way you handle them to more friendship style. And so one of the KPI Mary Chu that I set myself as my children turned to teenager was to be invited into their private account. It's a very tough act. Huh? If your children can invite you into their social media private account means only for special people. Usually parents don't belong to that category. And that will be a very true factor of whether you've been successful as parents. So with my 3 children, I'm successful with my youngest son and my daughter. Till today, I haven't got into the private account. My eldest son, I think he's just a private person. But when you are invited in, be very careful. You're not supposed to be judgmental. You're not supposed to behave like a parent. You behave like a friend. And so there are also some ground rules there as a parent in social media. So, but I get to watch what goes on, what they share. I cannot be judgmental. So I have to be very careful how I approach certain things I see that I don't like. And so that one, you have to ask God for wisdom. And finally, one last advice I give you is the best person to help control your children, the best way is let God do it. And the way to do it is pray for a personal encounter with Jesus in your life. The reason why you saw Rebecca just now at 15, she can say social media doesn't matter. And she has self-control and she deleted her Instagram is because just prior to this, we didn't tell you, she went to youth camp and she had a personal encounter with Jesus that transformed her life. And once that transformation happened, you let Jesus do it, let him take over. Don't worry about your social media. You'll be surprised what happened to Rebecca can happen to your daughter as well. Okay?
Okay, I have actually I have 2 more questions, Ruth. So the next question is this. I'm very inspired by the video on how your teenage daughter is able, by the grace of God, to understand that social media is not important. I'd like to know how you and Ruth were involved in her journey to develop these revelations. I think you may have answered some
I
of
answered
it.
already, right? The personal encounter with Jesus.
Okay,
yeah.
that's good.
Let God do it. Yeah.
Yeah. One more. Sis Ruth, how did you balance work with family?
Wow. With a lot of help. To be able to do that, you have to be not shy to ask for help. I learned, at a young age, trying to struggle with 3 children and my husband's ministry and a very busy career that requires me to travel. I have to learn to leverage others. I'm very thankful for my own mother and my mother-in-law. We live with our mother-in-law because Raymond is the only son. So she's been a great help, but she has some illness herself, and so she's not able to look after them. And so when they were young, I enrolled my mother in. And so my mother has been very instrumental helping me look after the 3 children. And the other help I leverage a lot, and I know it's all a lot of us Singaporean parents, working moms is our helper. And so I'm very thankful that it's very important to pray for God to send you helper. And the way I prayed with Raymond is very interesting. We asked God to send us an angel from heaven. So far, I think here we have 4 helpers. Yeah, maybe just one that's not really an angel so much. And her experience, her duration with us was quite short. But the other 3, I tell you, God has sent me 3 angels from heaven so far. And they love our children. Of course, it requires you to treat them very well as well. And they are part of the extended family, sometimes to the extent that if I just, maybe sometimes just not too happy with whatever my helper does, right? I just, express myself a little bit more stronger in my tone. My children will come and say, Mom, please, and they are so protective of the helper that they will correct me. So that's how closely we are bonded, together with the help that comes from the family. So don't be shy and to leverage someone else. And even in the circle you have, the friends you have, sometimes you just need some advice when you do things. Even my cousin, we have a chat group, and we'll just ask a question and ask for help, and before you know, so many people will offer you help and give you some advice where to find the best tuition teacher, Chinese tuition teacher, where to get help for your children's math or something. So leverage others.
Okay, we have actually 2 more questions that just came in just a minute ago. One of the question is, Ruth spoke about high expectation with high acceptance. How do you do that? I observed that high acceptance makes them realize there is no need to meet any expectation.
I told you I didn't do very well in it, right? I share with you my mistakes. So I still have high expectation. In fact, I set the bar very high. Just this week that just passed, my daughter very strangely sent me a very long WhatsApp message to tell me that, I don't want you to get the wrong impression, because she had a holiday, right? 2 weeks of holiday, and she was out quite often. And then she somehow, I don't know how the word went to her, that I think she was not studying. She had the impression, or she was worried I had the expectation, high expectation, and then she think that she's not studying. So she sent me a long text message to clarify that she went out, but she was studying, and she is actually under a lot of stress. All that. So I found that WhatsApp message very strange. And I realized that, I am still a tiger mom in some ways, because I set such high bar for my children that if they just in the slightest way kind of like do something that is not so right, or they think I disapprove, they will actually try to clarify with me. So I was asking Raymond, I said, is there a video recorder or a something somewhere? How come she thinks and knows that I'm watching her? So if you're someone who set the high bar, don't lower it. Keep it, but be reasonable. Okay, so I encourage you, if you have a high bar, keep it that way. If your bar is too low, maybe time to think about how you can raise some of the high bar. But when your children do not meet the high bar, don't be so hard on them. In fact, when they fail, you must be there to be ready to journey with them. And so as much as you sort of have high expectation, when they fail, when they go the wrong way, and you know that they have, put in their fair share, it stings beyond them, accept them unconditionally, seriously. And that was the lesson that God teach me on my youngest son. And I learned, and even my daughter, I share with you, I learned that when they do not get to the level they are with me, be more gracious, okay? Accept them and help them unconditionally. And so, you know, the response of the WhatsApp message that my long message that my daughter sent to me, I prayed about it. I was like, be very careful how I reply. She says she's under stress, so I focus on the fact that you know, I just speak again very affirming to her that she can come to me anytime and I will be praying for her, and that I trust that she's doing her best to study. She's already, I remind her, you're already 21. You know what you need to do. And so I affirm her. I choose to affirm her.
Okay. We will just have one more question to answer because it's coming to 3 o'clock. And then we will have a short break. And then I will do the second half of this parenting seminar. And then we will answer the rest of the question after the second half of what we need to share with you. Okay, so Ruth, this is your question from Tracy. Tracy says, what is your view and response to teenage relationship? What is the opposite party? What is the opposite party is known through a church camp?
You know, one of the good things I assume we've known through the church camp, hopefully, is also a believer. And at a young age, we, you know, impart the value to our children that we hope they choose somebody equally yoked. So I said that would actually be a very important criteria, that the other person is also in the same faith. It makes it a lot more, I guess, easier, right? You know, the journey ahead when they're equally yoked. This topic on BGR is a very interesting one. It's a tough one. It's a big transition for you as a parent to learn to accept. I will share that my youngest son, my most interesting child, first girlfriend was not a Christian. It was very difficult for us. And, you know, plus Raymond is a pastor, so it was very, very hard. But we didn't object or reject. We stay a little bit calm about it. We pray, we commit to the Lord. And then things happened in the end, they broke up. So, you know, you'll be surprised sometimes the Lord has his way of working through your children's life. Of course, we were hoping that she will come to know the Lord, but it didn't work out that way. So with a lot of prayer, a lot of commitment, you know, and you have to be imparting some of this value as they were younger. It's a bit hard to do it when they reach their teenage stage. Journey with them. My eldest son had a girlfriend in recent year, just this year. And I realized that one of the best things to do is actually to spend time with her, just me and her, the girlfriend. And so we go on walks together. I get to know her. I try to be like an older woman and a mother to her. My husband did the same thing. He went out with my daughter's boyfriend. And then he, you know, went to have coffee with him, and he makes sure that he impart to this young man, you know, about the importance of chastity, about the importance of keeping pure, you know, before marriage and all that. So it's like you have that God-given ability and authority as well to speak into the life of your children's boyfriend and girlfriend by starting to first befriend them. Okay, so that will be my 2 cents worth. Okay, we should take a break.
5 minutes break, and then we will get